this is our Wednesday, October 8th village board meeting. It's our monthly meeting and a public hearing. We have a lot on the agenda, so settle in, cozy. One of our trustees is joining us online. Trustee Erin Primark is joining us from online. Trustee Andrew Hall, Deputy Mayor Tweets Phillips Woods. I'm Kathleen Foley. People who haven't met before, welcome. Marjorie Gage is our village clerk. John Hurst is the village attorney, and officer in charge Matt Jackson is here. Do we think we have everybody in? So I'm going to go through announcements first. We have quite a few. So across our 5 water impoundments, we're at 66.48%. That's just 2% below our initial emergency declaration on October 8th. And that means that our conservation efforts are working. We've had a little bit of rain and that helps some, but everyone being careful with their water use is helpful. So please keep doing it. We're not out of the woods yet. Some simple tips: short showers, shut off the water while you're running the dishes, shut off the water while you're brushing your teeth, and remembering that garden watering is limited from 7 to 8 a.m. and 8 to 9 p.m. Okay, so along the cataclysmic line of thinking, the governor has declared a statewide burn ban. It's in effect through October 15. It'll be reevaluated before it's expanded, but there are dry conditions, low water, and fire hazard don't make for a good combination. Tomorrow, 10/9, day 8, right? 10/9. There will be some temporary parking restrictions on Pine Street from Paulding Avenue to Parrott Street, and on Parrott between Maple and Pine to accommodate the funeral of John Egger, who's the lieutenant of the Phillipstown Volunteer Ambulance Corps and the commissioner for the North Highlands Fire District, and we're grateful for his service to the community. So thank you for your patience, folks, in that neighborhood. This weekend is Columbus Day, at the height of our October frenzy. Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Weekend. It does tend to be one of our busiest weekends of the season. We'll surely be welcoming West Point cadets and their families. It's family weekend at West Point also. As of last weekend, we added additional garbage cans on the waterfront and at strategic locations on Main Street. They are not very pretty. They're just plain white liners, but they are receptacles for garbage, and we'll work on getting additional nicer looking enclosures. But for now, we just wanted to have additional capacity to collect. And worry not, Monday is actually a working day for Royal/Casella, so there will be pickup on Monday as well. We have received a number of contacts about buses on residential streets. Just a reminder that for everyone that we do have a local code that restricts bus travel, embarkation, and disembarkation only on Main Street, Fair Street, and 9D, and buses can only park on Chestnut Street, the extension of Chestnut Street. If there's not enough room for them to park there, they need to leave the village and come back to pick people up. So it's very hard to get tour buses to comply. It's lots of different companies. Some let us know ahead of time, most don't, that they're coming, so we need your help. If you see something, say something. The on-duty cell for the Cold Spring Police Department is 845-656-3800. So you can let the officer on duty know that there's a bus that needs to be sorted out or where it can be. On Saturday, October 18th, from 10:30 to 12:30, the Historic District Review Board is hosting preservation professional Kate Wood for a workshop at the chapel called Stewardship 101, How to Update Your Old House While Preserving Character. Free and open to the public, and we're very grateful to the HDRB for putting it together. Drug World is partnering with the county's Office of Senior Resources to offer in-home vaccinations for those over 60. You can contact the Office for Senior Resources or Drug World to make arrangements. And last two, e-waste can be recycled at Royal Karting in Hopewell Junction. It's on Route 52, right? On October 18th. And last, everybody's favorite Saturday, bulk pickup in the village is the 25th. You can check the alert section of our website for a list of items that can be put out and those that can't. That's it for announcements. The next item is the opportunity to add or modify the agenda. I would like to make two requests. One, to add a request from C Streak related to docking on Friday, add it to the agenda as item 5F. That is my motion. May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Aaron. And next is to make a motion to accept the reports of the boards and departments as submitted to the clerk and make them available on our website so that we can have more time for public comment and other topics we need to review. Second, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
So for anyone who came in late, there are also copies at the front. Okay, so now moving on to the main event. Our open public hearing on the proposed amendments to Village Code chapters 108 and 126. So we've received a goodly number of comments related to the installation of EV chargers on High Street, the southeast corner of McConville Park. The installation is not on our agenda tonight, and it's not a subject of a public hearing. I will, however, clear up some of the misinformation about the chargers that's been reflected in some of the comments we've received. The installation is on village property. It's therefore, like I said, not subject to a public hearing. It's a less than 4,000 square foot installation, so it is a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and it's exempt from further seeker review. The installation is by no means rushed. The village board, and particularly trustee Laura Bosey, who is unable to be here tonight, have been working on the installation of EV chargers for almost 4 years now. And we've been looking at the site at High Street and discussing it in public session since February. The chargers are paid for by a grant from NYSERDA, and the installation is subsidized at 90% by Central Hudson. The grant requires installation on village property. So that rules out the MTA lot, the Haldane softball lot, 9D, Butterfield Library, many of the locations that people have put forward. We have looked at multiple village locations and been well down the road toward installation and had to pull back. And I want you to know what those are. Just west of the Metro North tracks on Main Street, had to reject that because of flooding. The municipal lot, we had hoped that this would be the ideal location. I'm talking about the Fair Street lot. However, there is a water line situated, it's sited underground, sort of diagonally across the municipal lot, but the exact location is unknown. There are no maps put in the early 90s, and there were decidedly some different record keeping processes than we have now.
Sure.
There's no maps, and there's also currently no shutoff valve. And if the line were to be accidentally hit during construction, we don't have any way to shut off a big stretch of Fair Street. The EV charger company paid for ground penetrating radar to try to identify the water line, but they could not conclusively locate it because it is probably PVC or another plastic. It's not metal. Other sections of the lot, which we looked at, were not close enough to an electrical pole that had enough capacity to serve chargers. So we decided as a board that the risk of hitting the water line was too high to continue at this site, and Central Hudson was not willing to deal with that site either. So then we went to the Mayor's Park lot, which then collapsed in the July 2023 storm, and it is going to continue to be a tidal flood area. Stormwater is coming under control, but the river is still going to break its banks. We looked at Main Street near 9D along St. Mary's Lawn, and again, all of these were discussed in public session. There is underground stormwater infrastructure there that's carrying Back Brook, where it dives down and goes underground at Academy Street. It surfaces again all the way down next to the yarn shop and is channeled down between Garden and Church, running parallel to the river. And that stormwater infrastructure that's on that section of 9D conflicted with the electrical conduit trenching. So that had to be ruled out. High Street was finally selected because the location is along open public space. There's available capacity on the poles. They are Linkwell level 2 charging stations, 2 dual mounted stands, 4 ports total. They likely will be like those at Town Hall. They'll be along the curb line on the street. They'll be for charge, cheaper for village residents than for the general public. We're working on that with the company. There will be 1 electrical panel, and did I send you the? I did not send. I'm going to take a second and just distract my attention to send Andrew images and screen share. Sorry about that. When you're in a rush, there are people watching, right? Andrew, it's an attachment on this email.
Kathleen, while you're doing that, I'm happy to describe a little bit about some misconceptions about the size or the power of this.
Okay, just when I'm through with this portion, you can do that, Aaron. So there'll be 1 electrical panel that will be behind the fence. It'll be obscured with wooden panels that can be painted or have screened plantings. And Aaron, would you like to hop in with further description?
Yeah, in some of the emails, there was some concern about the size of the noise of this. There can be a lot of confusion about electrical chargers. The equipment that we're installing is about the size of a kid's backpack. And it uses the 240 volts. It doesn't require really specialized equipment for feeding off the electrical grid. There is another type of charger that's referred to as a level 3 charger that you might see. That's the Tesla stations or what's in Walmart, the big, Electrify America. That's much bigger and that does make noise and it charges your car a lot faster. That's not what's going in there, right? Those are available with big infrastructure. We're not putting that in. We're putting the same class of equipment that people already have on their houses. It means it doesn't charge very fast, but it's a nice little boost in order to get back home. So those of you who aren't familiar with the electrical charging infrastructure, it can be a little confusing having the different kinds of chargers, but this is very modest, is an important point.
Thank you, Aaron. So what is in the code conversation tonight? What's in the public hearing tonight regarding EV chargers and is subject to public comment is 1 in chapter 108, streets and sidewalks, requiring EV chargers laid over home chargers, that cords that are laid over sidewalks need to be covered for safe pedestrian passage under the revision of chapter 108. And then in chapter 126, which is vehicles and traffic, a violation for the parking of non-electric vehicles in EV charging spots. We want to make sure that they're available for the people who need to use them. It can be a real bummer for folks. I do not myself have an electric vehicle, but I certainly know enough people who get bummed out when they realize there is a car parked there that is not using the charger. The bulk of the language that's proposed as changes to chapter 126, largely they're spread across the district, across the village, and they're small modifications. I'm going to talk through them and then we'll open for comment. 1 is following up on a NIMTIC recommendation that we had to improve traffic on Lund Street, Lund Terrace and Market Street. So we would like to add 3 stop signs so that all the traffic stops at that intersection to improve the safety and calm the traffic, adding crosswalks there as well and stop bars. And the second is, I already said that one. Okay. Next is codifying no parking at any time in several locations. And some of these are already existing under temporary order as no parking, and we are simply codifying them. First is Cedar Street South near Main. That's to ease bus passage around the corner and create better pedestrian sightlines for pedestrians, kids coming out. We also, we deal frequently with kids riding bikes the wrong way on that street, and it's very difficult for cars to see them as they come around the corner on Cedar. That has been reviewed with the facilities manager at Haldane. Fair Street, from Main Street to Northern Avenue, both sides, to reduce congestion, increase pedestrian sightlines, and maintain an open route for emergency vehicles, trucks, and buses. This has been the case for a little more than, well, just about a year now, under orders from the officer in charge to help us deal with crowd movement. But also, we've learned a lot of lessons over the last few years with growing crowds in the village. We need to have a second way for emergency vehicles to get up and down different portions of Main Street when Main Street is full. And Northern Avenue to Fair, keeping that open, we know we can get vehicles that we need to get onto Main Street or off Main Street, particularly on crowded days. Also, there are a lot of driveways in that section, and the sight lines are very difficult for the folks living there when there is parking all the time. So that has been in place as a temporary measure for a year. Now we are proposing to codify it. At the other end of Fair Street, on the east side only, so the hillside, not the riverside, from Northern Avenue to the village boundary to improve pedestrian safety. You'll see there's a new sidewalk going in there, but keeping sightlines open again. But also there is wastewater infrastructure on the east side of the street that is close to the surface and is vulnerable to damage by parking there. So we need to not have cars parking on the uphill side of Fair Street. The next is Northern Avenue between Morris Avenue, that's Route 9D obviously, and Church Street, what I was just describing, the loop, maintaining the open route for emergency vehicles and improving sightlines. So that's the no parking at any time. The next, which I'm sure a lot of you are here about tonight, is reallocating the east side of High Street from a residential parking permit area to free public parking. This is so as a process standpoint, we had a parking committee that made that made recommendations for a residential parking plan. The board then took those recommendations and operationalized them. There were modifications in the plan to make the operation work, to make it come together. And when it was enacted, we were very clear in the public record that this was an experiment for all of us, and that we would need to monitor the parking program and make tweaks along the way where we should. It was in our observation and the police department's observation that High Street, which has 13 houses and 10 driveways, is not using the full street. There's excess parking capacity on High Street at the busiest times. There seems to be sufficient resident parking. The New York State Code, the enabling legislation that allows us to issue resident parking permits, requires that 20% of the residential parking area be retained as free public parking. So our allotment for public parking had been High Street and Northern. With the recommendation from our public safety officials to keep Northern open, we need to reallocate the 20% portion, and are recommending that it be reallocated on the east side only of High Street. So the entire west side remains resident parking only. The east side would become open public parking. That's up for discussion tonight. Next, the code now differentiates parking hours and paid parking on Main Street from Monday to Thursday and from Friday to Sunday. It is proposed to shift the 2-hour parking on Market Street between New and Main from the east side to the west side. It clarifies the process for the village board to declare winter parking restrictions. Winters are all over the place. And often we need to start plowing earlier in the day. It's helpful to get the cars off the roads earlier. Waiting until midnight, we lose a number of hours that our crews could be on the street. So moving from midnight to 8, so that our crews can get out. And last, clarifying the use of the municipal lots for winter parking restrictions. So, and I would like to add one more thing on the Fair Street, on the south end of Fair Street between Main and Northern. We do recognize that this has for some time been utilized as church parking. We have been in many conversations with Father Lutz. He does support Officer Jackson in this request. We have an understanding with him that if there is a funeral or a holiday or a wedding, anything that where he expects a large crowd, that our officers will be available to help people park on that street and access the church. It has been working seamlessly. We've had several large funerals, weddings, etc. Father Lutz calls the officer in charge. We make sure the cones are there for church parking, and off we go. It has worked well, and we are committed to keeping it working well. So that's all that I have to say. You're sick of hearing me. Here's the ground rules for our public hearing. We're going to start with folks in the room and then recognize people online. The purpose of a public hearing is for the board to listen to what you all have to say. It's not a debate between members of the public and board members. We're neighbors, so please let's all treat each other with respect and courtesy. We're not in DC, we're not in Albany. You have to see these folks at the grocery store tomorrow. And we're decidedly not social media either. And I just want to make clear that public comment is but one element of what we as trustees have to consider in our decision making. We have to balance multiple priorities that are fiscal, public safety, etc. So this is one piece, and we are grateful to receive it, and we're glad to have such a turnout. So with that, I will make a motion to open the public hearing on proposed modifications of Chapter 108, Streets and Sidewalks, Vehicles and Traffic, and 126, Vehicles and Traffic, with a time limit, since we have a large crowd, of 3 minutes. That is my motion. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So, Marjorie, may I have the list of folks who, is everyone who wanted to speak, have you signed up? You don't have to sign up, but it just helps us have an orderly. If I don't call out your name and you want to speak, just let us know. Okay, so, and you, if you would like, you can state your name and address for the record. You do not have to. Okay, Jackie.
So my name is Jackie Haddon. I live on High Street, and I have a letter that's not yet been sent to the board, but I was one of the writers, and several of my neighbors have added their names. We on High Street are very concerned with the newest proposed changes to our streets parking rules. Earlier this year, when any parking on Northern Avenue disappeared between 9D and High, we saw increased parking demand on our street. Now the village is proposing making all of Northern Avenue from High to Church no parking. This will increase the parking demand on High Street yet again. The proposal to strip the entire side of High Street, 14 spaces from Northern to Main, of its residential permit parking, making it free parking, will add to a burden on High Street again, not just for the permit spots that it offers not to only High Street residents, but other residents who use our street when their spots are full. In addition, it has been noticed by street residents recently that ticketing for parking violations on High has slowed significantly, which doesn't bode well for us with even fewer permit spots to utilize. Now, while I know you said that the EV chargers are not up for discussion, I have a couple of sentences that will connect with a parking comment. So we on High Street cannot help but feel that all of the planning for the EV chargers was done without reasonable notification to residents on a street in the historic district who have a vested interest in what happens here. McConville Park is a park, and putting in, if it's like Town Hall, 8-foot tall charging stands does not seem to go along with the idea of what a park is intended for. as well, because only electric vehicles will be allowed to use those spots. The number of spaces that the village is proposing to turn from permit parking to free parking is thus limited by this proposal and will again increase pressure everywhere on High Street. We also have to wonder if the proposed hourly fees for locals, which will be cheaper than meter spots on Main Street, are not going to attract abuse of this service. And how can it be monitored 24/7 when the 3 days a week that the parking attendant goes around, we're not seeing him ticket recently. So we strongly feel on High Street that we are bearing an unfair burden with this whole plan. In addition to all the issues created with the parking change proposals, we feel that placing utility in the park's view shed runs counter to what parks are meant to be. This view shed should be protected, as other notable locations in the village have been. High Street is a residential street where a public-private enterprise has no place. We have 7 households who have signed, and I know that other people on our street have written their own letters with their thoughts. We wrote a letter for them.
Thanks, Jackie. Josh, did you want to speak as well?
Yes.
Great.
So the first thing I want to say is that the RPP was instituted to stop the zoo that was the village of Cold Spring with parking from tourists. And it has been spectacularly successful in achieving that goal, for sure. So I'm very confused about why a central village street should be stripped of that kind of protection and turn it back to what was maniacal searching for parking. I don't see any valid reason to change the high street parking. And there also seems to be no real reason to eliminate the open spaces on the south side of Northern from Church to High either.
Can you say that again? Sorry,
The south side of Northern between Church and High Street, you have listed as an area to be removed from parking. So the current parking map shows 161 spaces for residential parking permit and 86 open spaces. That's a total of 247 spaces in the RPP. 247 times 20% equals 49 open spots required as a floor by New York state law. If you remove the open spaces on Northern as proposed, that number drops to 55 open spaces available, which still exceeds the New York state mandate of 20%. Further, the New York State enabling legislation for Cold Spring actually includes every single street in the village of Cold Spring. To my mind, it stands to reason that there are, in fact, hundreds of more legitimate open spaces in this village, way in excess of 20%. So I do not understand at all why we feel like this needs to happen. The next is a question with regards to the EV chargers. And that is, do you intend to have an open public comment for that? Question, you do not. Okay. So I want to add then that Main Street below the railroad tracks, for those of us that have been here long enough to remember, there was another reason that that was not selected. And it was because of one of the residents was concerned about the rays on their grandchildren. Rays, quote unquote, on their children. That was one of the accepted reasons not to place it there. Now you're talking about putting something that might have rays in a top park. The mayor's park, you talked about the damage. The damage was not from the Hudson River. That was runoff from Bull Hill. The charger stands at Town Hall are 8 feet tall and are monstrosities. There are other ways to locate underground utilities that are not ground penetrating radar, and I don't believe they've been tried because you can locate things in PVC pipes. We have had that done recently. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Just gonna pause for a second and finish taking a note here. Okay, thank you. Mr. Lasardi. Okay, nice to see you. Doug.
I'm good.
Good. Mr. Peltieri.
Sure. Okay. Evening, Mayor and board members. My name is Tom Peltieri. I live on Fair Street. I'm a 75-year resident of Cold Spring. I go back 8 generations on Golden Spring. I also served as chairman of the zoning board from 1988 to 2000. Had plenty of open meetings, and just wish to make a public comment about the proposed parking registration on Fair Street. Now, according to the zoning code, okay, you can correct me if you want to, but I'm looking at section 126. I think it's 20, is it? I'm sorry. Change glasses. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. The zoning code regulations, according to the code, it's been on the books since 1967. Under code 126.35, schedule 8, no parking anytime. Okay, names and number of streets involved, including Fair Street. It's in accordance with the provision of 126.16. Now, Fair Street, it names Fair Street both sides parking. There's one,
Sorry, Tom, are you looking at the red line or the existing code? You're looking at the existing code?
but it's still on the books as far as I
It
know.
is, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure what you were.
Absolutely.
Thank you, go ahead.
Right. So the exception is, it says according to code, parking will be permitted on the east side of Fair Street on Sundays only from 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, it just happens, the Catholic Church has been there since early 1900s. Okay, we have 400 members attend that parish, including myself. I don't see any reason why for 6 hours during the day, 6 hours. I know we have a lot of people, influxing, tourists, etc. People like to come and shop. But my feeling is that law should still stay on the books and it shouldn't be restricted for a number of reasons. A short period of time. There's 3 masses on the weekends. Saturday, 5:30, 8:30 in the morning on Sunday, 12 o'clock. So 12 masses run about an hour. So from 1 o'clock to 2, by the time 1 o'clock comes, church is over. And it goes back, you still have another hour to park if they wanted to park there. Lots of times the parking lot is so full, you can't pull in. People need to park on the street. They don't park all the way. They park as far as maybe the big White House that I know about. So to change the law, restricting use, I'm sorry, for,
Are you able to
yes,
do it quickly? Just to be
Well,
fair to everyone in the room, please.
right. I think it's discrimination. Tell you the truth. Sorry to feel that way. I feel that for the good of the people, I did it 12 years on the board. I always looked at all the facts. Nobody ever got sued when I was on the board. I'm sorry I have to bring this up, but I disagree.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Gordon Casement?
I'm Gordon Casement. I live just outside the village. I'm not a resident of the village, but I am a member of Our Lady of Loretto Parish. And I'm also a member of the Knights of Columbus at the church. We did sell our building on Main Street a couple of years ago with the idea that we would have our events at the church. Most events seem to be okay, and there's sufficient parking for small events and meetings and what have you. But the doing away with the parking on Fair Street, as Tom Pelletier just said, for the Saturday evening and Sunday small period, will negatively affect Our Lady of Loretto and its health. As people come in from outside the village, like myself, I can't walk. We're not gonna walk into the village. We're a mile away, but I'm not gonna do that. And people live farther away. This is the Catholic Church for Phillipstown. So all the people outside of the village and in the village, they're driving there. And it is very often, as Tom said, full for mass. So they park on Fair Street, and occasionally that has gotten full. And we used to kind of try to find a spot on Northern Avenue, or, well, now we're doing it with Northern. We're having paid parking. We have resident only parking. We're really limiting the people practicing their faith at Our Lady of Loretto. this is not affecting any other parish, any other church in town. We have free parking up at St. Mary's along 9D, free parking at Church on the Hill on Upper Main Street, free parking at the Methodist Church on Locust and Upper Main. And yet we're gonna restrict how many people can attend church at Our Lady of Loretto. To Tom's comment there, it sounds a bit discriminatory. And that your comment of why this is being done for emergency events, emergency passage for those events. I'm sure, as we said, we're working together. We have a village festival, 4th of July festival or something like, maybe that day you say, oh, this is starting, set up at 6 in the morning, we're gonna be restricting the streets. Okay, you have a special big event in the village 2 or 3 times a year and it happens to fall on a Sunday. Okay, sorry, Loretto, you can't do it today because we need to have this for emergency access, but not every Sunday of the year. We don't have a special event other than our fabulous tourism that's here, which brings money. Now we have to create a walking, we have to create a walking path to Beacon because that's what everybody wants to do when they come to Cold Springs, walk to Beacon. And now we have also allowed them to free passage while the others can't park, the residents. I'll try to wrap it up.
So 10 seconds.
There is a law that was a federal law put into effect called the Religious Land Use and you know that act,
I do.
passed by President Clinton.
So that's a federal law and we're not gonna, that doesn't apply in this we're talking about a public street.
Yeah.
And a federal law relating to the spaces in a building, in a church structure where worship happens. So I'm gonna stop you there because it's not applicable to this discussion. Thank you.
If any land use regulations are put into effect, is that,
John?
can you answer that? Any land use regulations that restrict the practicing of faith?
Right, it has to place a substantial burden, so, and the
It has-
question is this a land use regulation, or is it's really a regulation regarding on-street parking?
You're changing the use of a public street is land. I believe that falls into it. I am in
Normally
the
it happens- Normally, RLUIPA comes up when you have a church applying for a planning board or a zoning board for a special use permit or a variance. And if that is denied, or if there's unreasonable conditions, then the church organization usually brings an action by RLUIPA, finding that you're restricting their ability to conduct their religion because you're placing substantial burden on the church, and it's going to impact the church.
Right.
So I don't think that really applies here, but we'll certainly double check.
I would like to look into it because I spent hours reading the law and its statements of opinion by the assistant attorney general. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Liz Whistler. Hi, oh, hello. So you're right in front of me.
Hi, I'm Liz Whistler and I live on High Street and wanted to make a few points about the free parking. There is already quite a lot of traffic on High Street. I think it's a cut through for most cars to go from Haldane down High Street and avoid 9D. So it's very trafficked already with a lot of cars. And the southwest side of High Street is already free parking. I'm not sure if that was trying to change that to residents. It's from.
Oh, yes, that we are required, just for clarification for everyone, X number of feet from the intersection.
Okay.
That's part of our 20%.
So just making the point about the traffic, and cars drive quite fast on our street because it's a wide road and it's, easily accessible from all Main Street and Haldane. The other point I'm making is that it is probably the most trafficked pedestrian street outside of Main Street. Most kids that live in the vicinity walk down High Street on the west side to get to school. And then there are all the strollers and all the people bringing strollers to the top part. They walk on the west side, so they have to cross over High Street to get to the McConville Park. Just want to point out that the danger that is, with free parking, there's going to be more traffic, more fast cars, and a lot of people walking. And I think that should just be taken into consideration as those people have to cross the road. I think the sidewalk on the east side of High Street is not as easily accessible. So maybe that's something that should be looked at as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who wishes to make comment? If not, we'll move to folks online. Okay, change your mind. I'll check in again before the end of the comment period. Is there anyone online who'd wish to make a comment? You can either signal, or raise your hand, or signal in another way. See everybody on the screen, everybody who's on.
Hey, I'd like to, when the time comes. Is now good, or should I
Sure,
wait?
Evan, go ahead. And 3 minutes, please.
Great. Hi, Kathleen, and
Hi.
Tweet, Andrew. Hello, Aaron, neighbors. I'm Evan Hudson. I live on 19 High Street. I've been a village resident for 16 years. I was on the parking committee. I'm a single dad with sole custody of 3 kids. I work in the city during the week. That's where I am right now, dialing in. I won't comment on the chargers because I understand that's not up for discussion, although I would have said that it's a very unwanted use on High Street and we weren't consulted. And I don't really care where they go, but they shouldn't go on High Street. But that's not up for discussion as I understand it. So I'll talk about the other point, which is the proposal to push the tourist parking back onto High Street. I just see this as a pure backslide. It's more than a tweak. It doesn't matter if there's excess parking capacity. That's not the issue. It doesn't mean it should be filled with tourist parking. The current plan works really well. It's hard won. It took years of effort, years of volunteer effort for people who, like, all the board members don't have time for this. It was thoughtfully executed. It had buy-in from the mayor, the former mayor, the current mayor, the board, residents, merchants. And, we've seen the chaos before. Like, as Josh said, we've seen this movie before. We've seen the chaos. We've seen the crowds. We know how it looks, and we don't like it, and we don't want it back. If Northern Avenue has to be solved, and I don't know whether it has to be solved, just solve it without punishing us, please. So I just want to be clear. I'm requesting that the proposal to push the tourist parking back onto High Street is killed. I don't like it. My neighbors don't like it. We don't want it. And I won't talk about the chargers that we also don't want. But all that said, thanks for working hard and doing your best. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Evan. Anyone else online?
I'd like to say something.
Trustee Emerita, welcome back.
Hi there, how are you? I have a couple of points. I've been adding notes, so I'm going to be a little bit all over the place. And I will
Okay, 3
keep it to
minutes,
my
Fran.
3 minutes, 2:59. Okay. First thing, regarding the charging stations, which I know is not on the agenda, Chapter 134, 121 requires that a electric vehicle charging station in a park or recreation area requires a site plan, and I was wondering if this was done, and if so, when. That's part of the code, so that takes care of the electric vehicle charging stations. On the High Street parking situation, I just wanted to also add that the people who have paid for permits who live on Main Street, who can't park on Main Street on the weekends, park on High Street in the residential parking area on the side, which you're now opening up to the public. So they're going to lose that. And they have, they can't park on Main Street because the meters are there. They have come around on High Street and bring their cars on for the weekend, which is fine because they do have permits. And so taking the permit away from one side of High Street is going to give them, have a problem for them also. That takes care of my addition to High Street. Lastly, we'll talk about the arguments that you're using for the changes on Chapter 126, particularly the Fair Street change and the Northern Avenue change. Two things that is sort of like irk me, and I apologize if that's not a good word. We're changing things because we need increased pedestrian sight lines. This is a small village with small streets, and I'm not quite sure what other than a car that's parked on the corner that can't get, can't see around the corner. Pedestrian sight lines to me makes no sense. People need to learn to walk across the street, look both ways, et cetera, et cetera. I was 5 years old. My mother taught me that. I don't know why that should be an argument. And the second argument that I see that is going on and on is that we need open routes for emergency vehicles. I've been living in this village over 25 years. We have never had a problem with emergency vehicles getting down Fair Street on Sundays or Saturdays. I see no difference between a street with two-way traffic and no parking, or a street with one-way traffic and parking on one side. It's still two lines of traffic, two lines of cars. Emergency vehicles got down when it was one way with parking on one side, or two ways with traffic on both sides. And I know you've discussed this with Father Lutz. And I have also the thoughts that I got from Father Lutz is we were courteous enough to say, okay, you said this was a temporary change. Well, there was construction on Fair Street. Yes, we will put up with it. Well, it was a temporary change. I don't think we ever expected this to be a permanent change. I have seen parishioners leaving church on Sunday mornings, walking up Northern to get to their cars, trying to find their cars on other streets where there really is nowhere for them to park. And so it's just important that we keep Fair Street as it was. And as someone else said, all the other churches in the village have free parking on streets in front of their churches as well as their parking lots. And I know we have a parking lot, but my time's up. I'm done.
Thank you, Fran. Anyone else online? I'm sorry that I can't see your name, but I see you waving with a black shirt and stripes. If you can unmute or is that not waving?
What?
Okay.
It's Patty D'Amato.
No, sorry, Patty.
That's okay.
Recognize you.
I'm trying to get back to the video there. How's that?
There we go. Hi.
Okay. Hi. I missed the first maybe 30 minutes, so if I repeat anything that was said, I apologize. I have two concerns. One is the discussion about Fair Street, and I'm very big on community. I've mentioned it at other board meetings, but I think about the people who are driving to Mass on Sunday, the man for whom we just celebrated his 100th birthday, the 96-year-old former guidance department secretary at Haldane, the widow on Paulding Avenue who's helping raise her two grandchildren, the man living on Parrott Street who's also helping raise his three grandchildren after their parents died. These are the people who come to worship week after week. With a lack of enough parking, we're making it difficult for them to do so. I remember the glory years when we were packed at every Mass, and we would often park on Northern Avenue, but there was no parking restriction then. And so I think things have changed and we are in need of additional parking besides the church parking lot. My other concern is I have not seen much of the parking monitor who comes around and tickets, and it's getting to be a real problem on Railroad Avenue. Our car was hit and had over $1,000 worth of damage. Our neighbor's car was hit. And there were just four girls from Manhattan who rolled into another car behind them. You have a lot of inexperienced drivers because they don't drive frequently coming, and they're parking in the resident-only zone, and there's no one who's been coming around to ticket anyone. And it's been very difficult for our neighbors to get parking, especially on Railroad Avenue. So those are my points.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't recognize you.
That's okay.
Anyone else online? Hi, Dan. I see the name
Hi
Dan.
there. Hey,
Hi.
just like, how are you? Hey, I've never
Just a
commented
second.
publicly.
Once the timer started. Okay, go for it.
Okay, great. Just briefly, I never commented publicly, but I wanted to just voice my support for the EV chargers going in on High Street. My wife and I are new to the neighborhood. I know we've discussed with our neighbors the concerns about the parking, but I just firmly believe that the future and our friends who visit us and ourselves in the near future would like to utilize those EV chargers at the expense of it's 8 to 10 parking spaces to be lost on our side of the street. It may require us to make alterations to our own property at our cost. We have a very thin driveway, and that concerned me at first when I was talking it over with my neighbors. But in fact, if this is going to set the project back, and I understand there's people who it's going to be in their sight lines. I just have to be honest, that level of NIMBYism hasn't come my way yet as a new resident in town. I just, there's incredible views behind the people's homes who live on the west side of High Street. They have the $1 million views. I'll be honest, our house at 10 High Street, our bedroom window looks over the gas station with 24-hour lights on. And there's nothing I can do about that. I could complain to the gas station in the same way that, we could nix this EV project because someone doesn't like the way it looks. That's not fair to me. So I just want to get that on the record. And also in the future, utilizing those for EV spaces is something that close friends of ours and family members may use regularly. And I would love to be able to invite them to utilize them as they should be used. I think that's the future. And I think if we keep looking toward the past for answers, it's just not a good direction to go. So my neighbors might hate me for this. I love my neighbors. They've shown us a lot of love. And it's tough to say these things, but I want to be honest and speak on behalf of me and my wife. Really looking toward a green future is paramount to us. So that's all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the village. I haven't met you yet.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay. Anyone else online? Okay, is there anyone else in the room that's changed the, hi, Michael.
Can you
One
Can you
second,
tell
please.
me-
1 second.
Sorry, we can check, reset. Verbose.
Michael Robinson, 25 High Street. I'm wondering the clearing the area for the emergency vehicles pursuant to what Fran was saying. That is, what sparked that? Was there a, so Dan walked in a little while, like, has there been a thing that I haven't heard about?
Yeah, and what I plan to do is after I was planning to close the public comment, or at least put a hold for board discussion and to have the officer in charge address that.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure you didn't have anything else.
No, I mean, I do think that you guys are, this proposal is giving like a 1-2 between Northern Avenue. Does seem like High Street is taking like 3 bullets instead of just 1 or 2 bullets. Northern Avenue, opening up High Street to residents, and in addition, you got no problem from me on the electric chargers. It's not even for the reasons that you think. It's
No,
just
but
like,
it's great
I
to
don't
say
care,
it.
about it. I think view shed is, I like view sheds, but stuff like that. But it does seem like we are bearing kind of the big brunt of what's going on here. I'll take anything away from the church. That's all.
Thank you very much. Yes, Dan. Just 1 second. Hold on, please.
Hi, I'm Dan Valentine, 6 Garden Street. I also sat on the parking committee with Evan. I grew up here. I was kind of surprised at the Fair Street and the Northern Avenue changes. Knowing that Fair Street's really just Sunday mornings for church. But Northern Avenue, from what I understand, from Church Street to High Street will be no parking either side.
From Church to 90.
Correct. But right now, there's no parking from High Street to 9D at all, either side. But there is parking allowed on the south side of Northern Avenue between Church and High Street. So that surprised me, taking away parking. As a former police officer in Cold Spring, firefighter that drives the truck and the ambulance member, never had a problem navigating Fair Street or Northern Avenue during emergency. Not saying things haven't changed, but I had emailed the mayor, and my concern recently has been the lack of parking enforcement. We haven't seen anyone of the parking enforcement officers around the village. I understand we're looking, but I haven't seen any job postings for those. I've seen a crossing guard job posting, but I haven't seen a parking enforcement officer. And with the lack of enforcement, people are gonna park wherever they can. But when they see that ticket on a windshield, they tend to think twice, look at the sign, see what's going on. It's been tough to park in the village the past couple weekends, especially in resident permit required areas. So we've been forced to park in other places, but I think enforcement is down in the village, and that's a revenue stream, that's a lot of things. And when I look at the officer in charge's report that the police department, if I read it correctly, wrote 2 parking tickets in September compared to the parking enforcement officers that are issuing tons of tickets. But it doesn't seem like we have anybody working right now, so I wasn't sure if we were gonna be able to hire some additional officers to help with the enforcement. Like I said, that can help with the parking, because I think the revenue generated from those parking tickets would more than cover any expenses that the police department may have at salary. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last call in the room, online. I'm gonna make a motion to leave the public comment period open until the end in case anyone joins late, but now shift into board discussion and asking questions of our attorney and officer in charge. So I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing until the end of the meeting and have conversation among the board. Favor? It may just, unplug it. I mean, or no, Howard, it's on the side. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I want to recognize what Jan said. It's really hard to get up in front of your neighbors if they say things that can be controversial or difficult. And we appreciate when you do it, and when you do it politely and respectfully to yourself, to us and to your neighbors. So thank you. I want to ask a couple of questions of the officer in charge and of the village attorney, and then come to board comment. Matt, could you first address the question of enforcement and where you are in the hiring process with additional officers, and the questions related to
hiring
vehicle
additional parking enforcement
enforcement
officers? Yeah, we're looking. There should have been a posting on the website. We've looked for several months.
And you have applications right now?
I have applications. Yes, I do have applications right now. I will be getting to those. I have been away for a month, so they did come in while I was away.
In training, you were not
In training, I wasn't away. I was in training for a month.
Matt, what are we looking to bump the head count by in terms of parking time?
I will I mean, if you want to know now, I'm looking for 3. If I can get 3, I would love 3. That's up to you guys whether you 3 or not. I would like to add 3. We did have a full roster of 3, so that would bring it up to 4 parking enforcement. They all don't have to work at the same time, but I would like to have additional personnel instead of relying on one all the time.
And do you feel that you need additional advertising? I know you've been working through networks with DCC, et cetera. Do you feel like you need additional advertising?
I would like additional advertising because the through DCC and the cadet programs, a lot of the applicants are not at the required age. They don't meet the requirements set forth by the county. So that's the issue. They have to be 18 years old or have graduated high school. So that limits us to high school graduates and beyond.
No one wants to.
It is a
We're honest, who wants to be yelled at all day, right? But so you're working on that. Can you, we've had a number of folks ask what's different now about the movement of emergency vehicles than the past, and what is your thinking on Northern and Fair?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's never been a problem until it was. I had an incident in the village, in the lower half of the village one day. That's where all this stemmed from. I had to leave my house. I had to rush to the village to be a on-site supervisor for a particular issue. Due to the Main Street traffic, I could not get down Main Street. I did not have an emergency vehicle. I did not have lights on my vehicle. I had to get into the village. My next option was to take Northern Avenue. Both sides of the street had cars, and there was only one car able to pass. And because of the line of sight issue, the cars at the bottom of the hill at the stop sign did not see the top of the hill, vice versa. Therefore, I was unable to get down the street when I needed to. Now, that is my first reason. Everybody thinks, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It happened. It's an issue. And that's how I presented it to the board for that change. Now, the other thing that was brought up, which I was not aware of, was the removal on the parking on the south side of the street from Church to High Street. Is that what you said? Dan, you said that?
It's red line.
And right now, there is parking there.
Yes. there is.
So
We're gonna double check.
I'm not trying to create any waves here. I didn't propose that, and I didn't see that as a concern.
Margaret's
Okay.
grabbing red lines, we can make sure.
It was from High Street up. That was the issue. Not from Church all the way up. That is there. There is enough room to get vehicles through there. It's just that when you're making that turn, there's cars parked here, and then you have cars that are coming up. You can't get down the road with the vehicle. That section of roadway and all the way down to Fair, that wasn't a problem to get through. It was just that top section next to the ball field. So that's that. As far as Fair Street, we've had several incidents where Fair Street and Main Street were highly congested on weekends. And in order to eliminate that congestion and to go along with having a free flow of traffic in and out of the village, the parking was removed on Fair Street. Now, I discussed this with Father Lutz. He didn't necessarily approve what I wanted to do, but we do have a mutual understanding that if there is something going on at the church where he foresees the need for additional parking, he will contact me and we will make that parking available. We have done it. We've done it several times already, so that's not an issue. And anything else?
I don't have any additional questions from Adam.
I have a couple.
Yes.
Matt. To Michael's question, there was an incident here last year where there was an unpermitted parade of
Yes.
truck through the street.
Right.
I thought that was one of the initial.
That was one of the incidents that brought this to light. So that congested the village for a very significant amount of time. Emergency services could not get down the road. Additional support could not get in the village. We couldn't get those cars out of the village. We had no way of doing that. Part of my hazard mitigation plan, Fair Street falls into that section of my hazard mitigation plan, that if something were to come down like that, or if Main Street got overly congested for whatever reason, we have a way to divert traffic. We also have a way to divert traffic around to get to Lower Main Street if something happens on the upper half of Main Street. Okay. So it's just a mitigation effort for an emergency.
So on the weekends, my observations on Fair Street, when there was parking on the east side and you had particularly heavy foot traffic, the sidewalks won't contain it. People walk off into the street in either direction. They're not looking either. So it seems like a potentially hazardous situation. And the other question was, I don't know if you can shed any light on this. You said that you'd done an evaluation of parking on the streets.
Yes.
And which had led you to some of these decisions. Can you expand on that? What you looked at and what you counted?
Absolutely. So when I presented the idea of removing the parking from the from that north end of Northern Avenue, the north facing side, I was asked to go around the village and look to see different sections of residential and non-residential parking to see where the most spaces were available. We did this for several months into the new year, and High Street ended up being the street with the most parking spaces available. Okay, that's how, I'm assuming that's how we came to the decision to use High Street. There are other locations where parking is available in the village that's underutilized, but in that area, it was High Street. And that, you know, it could be to the amount of houses and driveways that people weren't using that much parking up there. It could be the distance from the center of town to High Street, why there wasn't that many people using the parking up there. But that's basically how, that's the information that I gave to the board, was that High Street was number one, believe it or not, Garden Street was number two.
That one I don't get.
That one I don't get either.
I think
But-
Garden Street is only one side.
I don't know, but that was one that had a lot of spaces open throughout the day. Kemble, Rock Street Railroad, Kemble, we do have a lot over on Kemble. And yeah, that's about it.
And what do you notice in general on High Street about the public parking on the weekend?
The public parking on the
Yeah,
weekends,
yeah.
so it is utilized. The public parking is utilized.
Yeah.
So people are using High Street as an area.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got distracted. Trustee Frymark has had to drop off, but we do still have an in-person forum to continue the meeting. Give me a second to try to recover my question there. John, is there any process that I need to follow there with someone with the fourth member having dropped off since we still have in-person forum?
No, just note it for the record.
And so that is 8:10. Sorry for the interruption, and I'm sorry, Matt, I lost my question. Oh, I know. It has been my observation. I often come in on Sunday because there's no one to interrupt me during the day and I can get things done. You have shifted, you have on occasion when it has been very dense in the village, shifted direction, made that one section of Fair Street one way so that people could not turn off it onto Main Street.
Correct.
And muck up the works on Main Street, and that seems to have been an effective way to control traffic and
Yeah,
congestion as
both
well.
pedestrian and vehicle.
And that's not a permanent change to one way, that's the officer on duty and his discretion putting out a sign to say one way.
If we need it, it's available.
Okay. John, first a clarification and then a question for you. Marjorie, at 8:10, Aaron had to depart the meeting, but if the record could reflect that we still have in-person forum.
Okay. I'm printing out more, but I just wanted to mention it's also available online.
Good to see you,
At
Liz.
coldspringny.gov, the red line version is underneath the text. So I'm printing out one copy.
The clarification and the question are related. The clarification is that the enabling legislation for Josh is right. The enabling legislation for the village allows expansion capacity. The residential parking permit zone approved by the New York State includes some portions of the upper parts of the village above the light. We have not yet operationalized that because, as everyone will recall, and particularly Dan and Evan, getting meters going and resident parking operationalized in the lower village was really difficult and a nightmare. So we operationalized the first portion of the zone, and we next need to convene another parking committee to figure out how we're going to operationalize the upper village. Because you all know this, we see on weekends that people are parking all the way up Main Street, parking on the residential streets, almost all the way to the village border. So it's not just an issue for you, it's definitely more intense for the folks who live in the middle of the village, no question. But as visitation grows, it is shifting around the village. Among the reasons that we paused before implementing that was that there are two churches with 0 parking within that zone. One is the Methodist Church and one is the Presbyterian. It's no longer called Presbyterian, it's Church of the Open Door, maybe, on Academy Street. And we didn't want to rush into operationalizing that without a plan for them. You have a parking lot. Methodist Church has some available parking. Academy Street Church just has the loop. So we paused. And this winter, it's my plan to convene another committee that includes members of the pastors of those churches or representatives and community members from the upper part of the village to say, okay, how do we do this? How do we figure this out? And what accommodations can we make for the parishes that don't, the congregations that don't have parking at all? So we're not giving them parking. They happen to be parking on a public street. It's not, we're giving them parking. That's what they have. So it might be helpful, I think, to contemplate having someone from Our Lady of Loretto be part of that conversation as well, to be part of that decision-making and planning process. To Josh's point, which may just be brilliant, the point that the parking area, when we requested the enabling legislation, we expanded above the 20% calculation that was done on the 11 streets that we operationalized. So we set aside 20% of the 11 streets. Can we consider the free parking in the rest of the village that is part of the RPP, but not yet, where we are not yet issuing parking passes? Can we consider that area as part of our free parking area? Or are we limited to the 11 streets that are currently operationalized to count? See where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I have to look at the state legislation again. I haven't got it in a while, but obviously whatever you do has to be consistent with that.
Yeah.
And certainly the village is free to kind of make their own local determinations, but I'd have to kind of compare it to state statute.
Okay. Because if Josh is right, that could solve the problems for the moment. And as we move into the upper portion of the village, we take that 20% in overall. So if we were to there are portions of this proposal that we need to pass soon so that we can get we have the time before winter and we have pedestrian safety in place. And that is the Lund Terrace intersection. And the small stuff that doesn't have an impact on parking, like how we declare winter emergencies, the process for declaring winter emergencies. If we were to take out the question of resident parking on high streets, can we table just that portion and continue with the rest of the proposal that's before the board?
Yes, you want to modify the.
Well, I don't, I'm asking first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does the, let me get my words together. The parking from Church Street to High Street,
Oh, I need to look at that.
making those spots available. Does that have any effect on the parking changes that are proposed for High Street?
No, because it's a separate street. It's on a different table.
Okay.
So let's just make sure that we are correct. That it's correctly reflected in the red line. And it was Dan who raised that point, and you were looking at the table of no parking at any time, right? Okay, just give me a second to get there.
It's on page 43 of the,
1, 2, 6, 4, 3.
no, on the PDF.
It's not gonna be the same, so let me just give me a second to flip through. I want to make sure that it's right. One-way roadway, pivoted turns. Vehicles and traffic at the parallel last.
The reason why I have is because they're removing the parking from the north side.
Yeah, I want to give me a second to get there because I want to make sure that what you intended is what's reflected in the text. And if it isn't, we need to modify it
Absolutely.
before approval, obviously. You
Put
turn
that
screen.
page labeled 12638.
Whoever said that, thank you, Josh. Okay, no parking at any time. Northern Avenue. Right now, what is it identified is the north side of Northern Avenue between Fair Street and 110 feet east of Church Street.
That's Springbrook.
That's the apartment side. The next line is Northern Avenue, both sides between Morris Avenue and Church Street. The High Street is crossed out and it says Church. It should be High, right?
Between Church and High Street.
Morris to High is what you're.
Morris to High,
Yeah.
the north side from Morris to High Street.
You know what? Dan, thank you for pulling that out. What I think when the red line was being built, I think the wrong street got the line through. Thank you for catching it. Does that address the concern that you raised?
To be north side from Morris to Fair,
So,
Correct.
and then south side from High to Morris.
so right now it is Northern Ave, north side, Morris Avenue, west for 25 feet. That's actually redundant now. Northern Avenue south from Garden Street, 25 feet west. That toward the river, from Garden, 25 feet west to keep the intersection open.
Yes,
Okay. So
on the north side.
Northern Ave north between north side
Line of sight.
between Fair Street and 110 feet of each church. That's the apartment. So I think that corrects it. Shifting. Am I right?
You go through that one more time.
Sure, why don't
On
everyone
that
else
first
look at it?
south
It's easier
side.
to read it than have someone read it to you. The goal here is, I think your goal here is to have the entire north side of Northern Avenue open and Northern Avenue from 9D to High Street open.
Right.
That's what the text needs to reflect.
Yes.
You know, it would be helpful
Is it 120? So schedule 7. I'm making notes so we can properly correct.
And then you
8.
need the little spaces on Church Street and Garden Street for line of sight. I think that the code allowed for it.
Yeah, that's what you were pointing to. It's just that's just complying with the being able to get people come around that corner so fast there.
Is your point that it doesn't say it? The 25 feet?
No, it's to make sure that that part was still in there.
Got it.
Yeah, it's there. Okay, now we're good. Thank you. All right, so back to the question of the enabling legislation and taking the other portions that need to move forward, moving ahead with them, and pulling out High Street so we can sort out these other questions that we can do by amending the motion tonight, amending the resolution.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So what we're looking to do here, just to try to summarize it for myself.
Yep.
We're looking at a longer term solution, which might be through the enabling legislation to expand the percentage of parking that we can set aside.
Right,
for
so
public.
not changing,
Right.
we know we need to take it off Northern.
Right.
But as a public safety issue, the question is, how do we reclaim
Mhm.
that portion of the 20%? And to Josh's point, let's make sure that the calculation is correct in terms of percentages, but also can we count what is within the district, but not
Mhm.
and not currently operational with resident parks?
Okay, got that. And in the short term, when we're talking about adjusting on the south side, between what was Church and High Street, right? We're putting that back, right?
That, what that is the area around, keeping open the area around the intersection so people can see
Right.
pedestrians as they turn.
But where Ruth Eisenhower's house was, that section,
That stays as parking.
right?
It's just articulating it correctly.
Yes.
It's not, it wasn't meant to be a change.
Correct.
So what I'm getting at is there anything in that formulation that will affect what decisions would take place on High Street in terms of whether it remains residential or switches to public.
Okay, so right now, while you're out of the room, we close public comment. I see you, Chris. We have left it open until the end of the meeting, but right now we're having discussion, so I'll come back. Thank you for pointing out. I won't forget you. I want to make sure we don't lose track of what we're concentrating on right now. Vehicles and traffic is a difficult chapter to work with because it's cumbersome and it's late. If I had my druthers, I would take this entire chapter and restructure it so that it was easier for everybody to read and follow. But that's a big job. So for now, we're focusing on the things we need to do in the short term. With Northern, we are codifying what is currently in place. So when you think about looking east on Northern, there is parking from Fair to Church, to just before the intersection of Church, the piece that Dan's talking about. The north side is open currently under temporary order all the way to 9D. The piece in question is High Street to 9D and codifying that so that you have that one remaining portion on Northern as one side parking from a little bit below Church Street, a little bit below Church Street to Fair.
Right.
That's Northern.
Yeah.
That is, can we act on the requests related to public safety before having the calculation set for additional public parking? Like, could we approve Northern tonight, but hold High?
Yes.
Okay. That's my recommendation, given the information that has been brought up as a calculation.
Going back to what we said earlier about the way, when you had asked about the, when we went around and we were doing evaluations on what streets had the most available parking, it was based off of eliminating those 6 or 8 spots on Northern.
Right.
Where do we have an additional 6 to 8 spots to put cars? And that's how we came up with High Street at the time. So that section from, which would be 9D, down to that stop sign, which is at Church Street, the north side, no parking. On the south side, it would be no parking from 9D to High Street.
Right, it's a staggered.
Right, and then everything else will stay as it is.
I think it was Michael who made the point that it feels like you're getting double whammy or triple whammy.
But it's counting.
I take that point. How do board, we don't have Aaron anymore, right? How feedback? And actually, why don't let's first hear from Chris. And there's someone else listening to that too.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I'm Chris Sandlin. I'm a resident, 25 years on High Street. Thank you very much for all your effort in this, the seriousness with which you're taking this. One point I wanted to raise, I'm a longtime runner in the village. People that see me probably around. I know like almost every street intimately because I'm running it daily around here. The Upper Village has a lot of always stop signs. There are very few in the Lower Village, and in particular, as you open up Northern Avenue between Morris and High Street, you're going to increase people's traffic speed coming down there, coming off of 9D. I would love for you guys to consider the impact that this has and in terms of traffic and what's going to happen, and contemplate as well the need for stop signs, such as what exists currently at Church Street, but at High Street on Northern, to just get people to slow the F down. Because it happens, and I'd love to have it as well on High Street at Haldane, because cars come whipping off of Northern Avenue and fly down trying to make the train or whatever they're trying to do all the way down when kids are walking up and moms and dads are walking their kids in strollers up and down the street. It's very unsafe, and there's just too much speed as Liz had pointed out, that's happening on High Street. We need to do something to limit the speed that is taken there as well and take control of like how people use the street.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. One thing that we can do on that matter that does not require code change is stripe sidewalks in that location as a short term. I take your point about stop signs. I take your point about stop signs. You're right.
Michael's house to the walk up to the lower field would be a great spot for striping there, just to continue from the walk over so kids could get to the ballparks.
Got it. I just want to point out something else so that Tom can attest to as a former trustee and a zoning board member, that codes are living documents. And when we make changes, that doesn't mean we've solved every problem. And you can always come back to a code and make other changes. So Chris raising this point tonight, it might not be in this code change. That doesn't mean we can't consider it. Vehicles and traffic evolves as the village evolves. We're reacting to existing conditions with the proposals that are before us. So noted, Chris. Was there someone else with a hand up? I thought I saw someone. Okay. All right. So the other intersection or the other, Fran, you've already spoken, so we'll come back.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay.
The other,
Bill was waiting.
Bill, are you wanting to speak? Unmute yourself.
Okay. How's that?
Great. Now we can hear you.
You know, I think I'm Phil D'Amato. I live on Stone Street, lived here just about my whole life. And the big issue is that there's never been enough parking in Cold
That's
Spring.
right.
That's the issue. I worked at Haldane for 30 years, okay? We never had assigned parking spaces because there weren't enough parking spaces. Okay, so that's a big problem. And then, you know, households now have more, buildings have more people living in them, therefore there are more cars. So I guess I'm happy about what's happened with having the person come around and give tickets and all of that. But the reality of it is, if we keep taking parking spaces away, I don't know where locals are gonna park. You know, it's at the Catholic Church, you know, we're talking about Fair Street. People used to park for mass in front of Impel's Ford place, and they can't park there anymore. Okay, so we have fewer parking spaces just because of that. So, you know, we keep taking parking spaces away, and it's problematic. When I have people that want to come and visit me, I have 2 stickers. I try to put my cars on the street so they can park in my driveway. And like we said before, there was a hit and run. They hit my car, $1,500 worth of damage, you know, and I just have to deal with that. So I don't know if there's a place where we can consider developing a parking lot. I don't know if the village has any land, because we just need more parking spaces.
Yeah, here's the challenge. Now I'm going to put on my hat as a land use planner. The challenge of parking is the more you build, the more they come. And a good illustration of that is, you might remember a few years ago during COVID, we opened the park at the southern portion of Mayor's Field as an experiment to see would that help relieve. What it did is exactly what the planning theory tells you. It created more places for people to park on the high street and more space for other people to loop, on Fair, and more people to loop on the other streets. The more you build, the more cars you have, right? It's just like Highway 1 in Carolina, in California, right? It's not been widened for a reason, to keep, it can't physically be very much widened, but it also controls traffic. The wider you make streets, the more parking spaces you have, the more cars you can accommodate. So yes, it's a problem. We are living in a village that was developed for pre-car times, and we love our cars. And it's part of the reality that we're going to have to live with.
I hate to bring up more issues, problems, but since COVID, Okay,
So Phil, we did have 3 minutes. For
okay,
everyone else. We did not start the timer for you, but I'm gonna try to fairly guess that you had 3 minutes there in that
okay,
comment.
that's fine.
You're welcome to
No
send me
problem.
if you'd like.
No, I appreciate being able to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. The second location where there was feedback, we haven't heard it tonight, but we had a number of people write in, was regarding Market Street, where it transitions from two-way to one-way at New Street. We had a recommendation to consider shifting the parking there from the east side to the west side.
The correct side to the left.
Yeah, and the concerns that folks have there, and I'm sure we've all gone down and looked since those concerns came in, I happen to agree with them, is that we'll lose spaces because on the other side, there are driveways, and the suggestion was put forward as a way to keep traffic on the right side of the street from Lunn to Main. Right now, when you transition at Northern, you go from the right lane to the left lane. This has not been a problem. If we don't have huge amounts of accidents. It's sort of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. My concern with fixing it is that we lose spots, A, and B, that we're putting cars, those houses are very close to the street there. And we end up putting them right on top of their front doors and windows. So it would be my recommendation that we pull that after public comment, and that we pull High Street after public comment and reconsider High Street. Not the chargers, we're gonna have the chargers, but the changes to the residential parking.
I have a few more
Go ahead,
comments, but
please.
I'd like to go for please. So Aaron, if he's still
Aaron,
available.
please.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting opportunity. I guess to other, just sort of thinking about some of the comments that we heard. I think I sort of take personally the concept of this being like a premeditated effort to be, I don't know, somehow hitting one group against another. That's not been this board.
No.
That's in our interest. I don't think that has any place in this conversation. We've had extraordinary openness. We've had multiple upon multiple upon multiple meetings that everyone in this community, including everyone in this room, has been invited to. So I sort of take that personally, and I think that you should reconsider that sort of thinking when addressing issues about traffic and parking in this village. So that's my first. I feel sort of passionately about that because that left a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't like that. To other issues, not talking about EV chargers, talking about EV chargers. I'm for it. I'm glad we're moving forward. I agree with our new village resident that we need to sort of be as green forward thinking as we can. I think they are creating new and more like visually better looking systems that we chose. The location, I think, given all the other locations that we did our due diligence over 4 years, people, that we didn't just come up with this and think High Street, let's add a third whammy to folks that live on High Street. Like this was done with real thought, with engineers, with all the different groups that need to be involved, including everyone in this room and the community. And so that's why we're moving forward with that. To parking, I too live on a street where I am constantly walking out the door and telling people, you cannot park here, you cannot park. It's amazing how much people don't read signs. Or they read the sign and they just don't care. I don't know what it is. It drives me nuts. I'm sure it drives everyone in here nuts who has a parking permit and has to, battle people who just blatantly abuse that, or ignore the signs, I should say.
Or blatantly abuse it.
Or blatantly, yeah, I mean, we all, it, like, I kept on thinking of like, you know, when you're pushing out like, I don't know, frosting out of like a small tube, it's like, you're creating, anywhere you put new things, we're creating pressure points in other places. We have a limited amount of space, we have a limited amount of parking. Probably a lot of people in this room have multiple cars. Like, we're all contributing to this issue that we have and complain about. So we need to be like take some responsibility for that and figure out creative ways to deal with the situation, which was this parking plan that community residents were involved in, that we tried our best to operationalize. And I think, given the obstacles, I think we've done a pretty good job. Could it be tweaked? Absolutely. And we will continue to do that, and we will continue to listen to your concerns. You just raised this issue about sort of putting aside High Street for that, for taking away that parking. I think that's totally fine. I think that shows an interest in listening to your concerns. It's not personal to anyone on High Street, as much as it may feel like that. I mean, that would be pretty crazy and a real waste of my time for certain to do anything like deliberately against my neighbors. So I think, again, that kind of like concept and that energy needs to be better placed in some real thinking about what we're doing and doing the best that we can. And if you have good ideas, bring them forward. If we haven't thought of them, excellent. Just like what happened just now with your comments, right? So you articulated something we hadn't thought about. Now we're thinking about it in a different way.
It's the whole point of a public hearing.
Precisely. So, I don't know, I said a lot, but I mean, I think that last piece that you noted, I think is a great opportunity for us to figure out, you know, if we can push that pressure a little bit with the enabling legislation, thank you. So that we could reconsider those spots.
Thank you. The end. Very well said. Very well said. And we should also note that High Street, one of the things I thought about when I was walking High Street over the last few days is what a leader High Street has been in green energy, right? We have two passive houses on High Street. There's solar panels on High Street, and you're leading the way. So I think it's entirely, it seems to be in keeping with the mindsets, right? That we want to think green.
Thinking of where I'm going to start, sort of a lot of information coming from the public, but I appreciate it. I appreciate that input. I appreciate your analysis of the parking. And with that, with Market Street, I'll take the slightly less challenging situation first. I would also agree with your position. I don't think anything needs to be changed there. The idea of bifurcating the changes to code that we're considering along the lines of revisiting the enabling legislation to see what room we can create there, and also setting aside High Street for the moment to see if we can find any additional relief there. Because I think what I was hearing was there are 6 parking spaces that may come back into play from the misnaming of the street, right, between High and Church.
They weren't taken away. I need to make sure that the language is correct so that it can be properly understood. It was not intended to take those away.
But if we can take a step back and
Yeah, that's
take another look in view of the comments that we've received and any further action that we may take, maybe there's some common ground in there that we can investigate. I was thinking too, Phil, like he always does, he always kind of
just nailed it.
Nails the thing that I'm thinking about, and it was also something you said, which is, you know, in the overall picture of things, it seems like there is never going to be enough parking in the village, and that's something we all have to sort of take on board, and at some point along the way, maybe be prepared to make some kind of sacrifice for along the lines that you're also talking about in terms of how things are shifting and changing. And that's also kind of a general feeling of mine, which was, you know, I'm new as a trustee. And I'm kind of learning what it takes in terms of one sitting here and thinking about things from a process and legal point of view, but also really trying to hear what my neighbors say. So along those lines, I really think for us, it's about hearing all of this and then making decisions as best we can based on a balance of interests. It's not, to your point, that we're trying to victimize a particular street or pick out a particular group. It's really, in the overall scheme of things, what is the best decision that we can come to? And that's not about personal interest. That's about being a trustee for the village and looking out for the best interests of the village. And I think, I think the burden can be spread between different streets and different parts of the community. We just have to, maybe in this instance with the parking, take a step back and revisit it. And a couple of other things that I was hearing from the public were concerned about parking enforcement. So I think that's something we need to follow through on. And yeah, that was it. Thank you.
And that is in process, but we have heard your request for wanting additional advertising. We can do that. It worked well with Crossing Guard. This we'll discuss later.
Yeah, qualified candidates for it.
Okay, so that sounds like we have consensus around that. We agreed to keep the public hearing open until the end of the meeting. We have a raft. Are you wanting to hop in? This is your last chance. Yeah, go for it. Hold on. Hang on a second. Yeah. Okay. Hi.
Hi, my name is Sally Jo Bronner. I want to.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for tabling the idea of switching the side of the street on Market Street. It made absolutely no sense to me. Particularly because we were gonna lose spots. That's crazy. And of course, I want to hear what your concerns are about that other piece of land that could house 5 cars and currently has 3. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. And that's something that needs to be looked at in the context of all of the lower, that zone of the parking district.
Okay.
Because I will say that area you're describing was not, I don't believe that was part of calculation when that portion of the district was set up. It's something that we can come back to.
I'm happy that you're open to it. And I wanted to thank you for the idea of putting in crosswalks for pedestrians at Lunn to Market and putting in stop signs because, that's where I live. I see it constantly.
It's bad.
People walking in the street, there's nowhere, they don't know where to go. So if we're walking the street, they're always asking, where is the train? Where do I go? And they're in the middle of the street. It's really, really a dangerous situation. So I wanted to thank you for the stop signs and the crosswalk.
Sure. And we actually had one other bit of feedback from another member of the public about adding a crosswalk, the top of New and Market. And also that area, the shoulder there where people go tight on the corner.
There's nothing that indicates they should not be driving.
That's right.
Right.
So
But that's also, that's a low hanging fruit striping issue. Potentially, yeah.
Catherine, may I just ask it's not a comment. It's a question. Am I allowed to, in reference to what Matt was looking for and said, as far as Northern Avenue goes, I really should stand up and address you, but anyway.
And also, but I also want to say, Tom, I'm gonna let you do this, but then we're not going around the room again.
Question for, where can you find more parking spots? Has anybody considered Marion Avenue for parking? In other words,
It's
at the end of.
that belongs to the school. No.
Marion.
Marion, up here.
Right, up here. Used to be Tom Luzo's property. There's a stop sign there. From there, almost up to the food town. You looking for spots? I bet you can get 5 to 10 cars.
God bless, we're not opening that can of
No,
worms.
I'm just saying, make it up observation, but there's one dangerous thing I think that never got discussed.
Right,
Matt?
yeah, that's the issue behind food.
Correct,
Delivery vehicles.
Yeah.
I used to deliver there.
I
and
believe
it's
it.
hanging back and in a box.
That's right.
So.
And also people getting out of their driveways from down below.
Matt?
So we're not opening that can of
No,
worms.
I'm not trying to open anywhere. There's only one spot. There's a burden. I believe it's on Northern Avenue and it has to do with the parking and how thing when the kids a salt wall. There's one spot in that. You get to the top of the hill, you got big cars parked there all the time.
Yes.
You gotta go out beyond.
That's what we're
gonna
hearing.
get
That's why we're
whacked.
hearing.
I 100% agree with you with that.
Someone's gonna get whacked.
If I could take that spot away as well, I would.
Yeah.
I see that in a lot of sections of the
Yeah.
village where the parking, even though it's a fair distance away from the intersection,
Yep.
it's still not enough for a
Blind spot.
vehicle to pull up to a stop sign
Yeah.
and be able to see past that.
That's right. You're right.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I agree with you 110%.
Yeah.
I do think that's an issue. It's a
Danger.
It
Yeah.
is, because you cannot, and that's, that's a main artery through the village.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an area of concern. I have noticed it just with other things going on. It's not something that I remember too often until I get there and try to pull out. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay,
That's
so,
definitely something.
That's all.
Thank
Not to
you.
bug anybody.
no, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So everyone who is online and in the room has had an opportunity to speak. I'm going to say we'll take new speakers till the end of the meeting, but we're not going to continue going around the room because we actually have an entire agenda after this. I'm going to leave it open in case anyone joins the meeting late, either in person or online, but we're going to go ahead with our agenda. I think if you don't, I mean, you're welcome to sit and talk with us about wastewater spending, but if you don't want to do that, it sounds as if we have consensus among the board to pull High Street changes to the parking, to the resident parking on High Street off the table, and pull the Market Street change off the table tonight. Okay, so we are gonna carry on then.
Kathleen, may
Yes.
I just make a comment about the EV chargers? I'd like to explain my thinking about it since the public submitted some comments about it. When I'm looking at that and thinking about it, I'm thinking of moving sort of from the general to the particular. So the general idea being that we all want to move to cleaner energy sources and a lower carbon footprint, reducing use of fossil fuels. And then, the next tier down is what's the availability of incentives and how can we move towards that whilst minimizing our own costs. Then it comes down to, well, what are the siting options? And then listening to public comment and understanding public comment and then framing my response in view of the preponderance of substantive comment in relation to that. And then it's balancing all of those different interests that arise to try again to come to
That's
a
the
reasonable
job.
decision. But my one thought has been, because I went up and looked up at Phillipstown at the charging station up there, and I know that we circulated some images of smaller size ones and larger size ones. To me, the larger size ones do look industrial and unpleasant. So to the extent that we could, in our discussion, move towards something that's less
That's
visibly.
Laura.
Yeah.
So Laura is the lead on this project.
Yeah.
She is in contact with Linkwell to confirm size and shape,
Mm-hmm.
height, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be what it is. It is infrastructure. It's gonna look like infrastructure, just like the two utility poles that are in the park and the fire hydrant that's on the corner. It's just a utility. And I would like to say, I spent 13 years on the Historic District Review Board. I'm trained as an architectural historian. I'm trained as a land use planner. It is my great passion. The Horse Historic District is my great passion. But historic districts die when they don't evolve. And we must find ways to continue in the same way that you have made your 19th century house airtight and passive. We have to think about the whole district that way and keeping it a place that is livable in the current context. And I would just also remind folks that the first 2 months we were in office, we inherited operationalizing this program and operationalizing the contracting of garbage. And the wailing and teeth gnashing over the shape of the garbage cans and the color, the fact that they were blue. I mean, there was no perspective on those garbage cans for about 2 months. People were losing their minds. I don't know how many of you notice the garbage cans anymore. They're part of life. And sometimes things become contextualized and we move on and we realize it's not the most important thing. It is one element of living community life. We're a small village and every neighborhood in one way or another hosts infrastructure and impact. There's no way around it in a place that's a mile square. So you had your opportunity to be on a soapbox, I'm on mine. We are going to move on to the rest of the agenda now. We have accepted the reports as submitted to the clerk.
Thank you, village board.
Michael, it's great to see you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
And Josh, like, seriously, thank you. For real. Good thinking. I have two things to report very quickly. The exploratory dig related to the water main on East Belvedere has been scheduled for 10/14. And tomorrow, on Friday, I am meeting with the mayors, the supervisor, the county exec, and the county law department related to the IMA tax sharing. So you and I should talk about that before.
Where are we on the agenda again?
We are now on item 4. Now we're moving to item 5.
Okay, got it.
And Marjorie, I'm gonna ask you to walk us through the water and wastewater technology upgrades, because I've been talking a lot.
In the last meeting, the village board signed contract or approved the signing of contracts for upgrades to the water and wastewater system, which allow the water and wastewater department to monitor the quality of water remotely during emergencies, and they use technology to do that. So they approved and later signed contracts with Aqualogics and Rockwell. To implement the new technology requires upgrading the present hardware and software that the water and wastewater companies, departments, use for to implement this technology, because as anybody who has a computer knows, they become obsolete. You can't go past one operating system. So this will allow them to use the operating systems, and that requires getting new hardware and software. So this budget addresses those technology upgrades that are required to do what we agreed to do last time. So it's basically, it's $24,782 in total, but it's broken down into different departments because the budget line for improvements is specifically geared toward water or wastewater. So that's where the contracts come in that follow. The first one, if you just want to make a motion to approve water, wastewater workstations in the amount of.
Like.
Thank you.
Last, the ability to get up and walk.
I got all the infos right here.
It's $6,884.55, which is broken down into $5,176.61 toward the water line budget and $1,707.94 toward the wastewater budget.
So moved.
Just ask before we get there, sorry. These were all budgeted expenditures.
Yes, these are all budgeted expenditures, yes.
Yeah.
So moved. As Marjorie explained for items 5A1 and 5A2. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And talk us through the next one. It's a similar story.
The second one is basically for internet security. It's firewall upgrades, and that amount is for $4,817.15, which is for the wastewater plant itself. And it's billed against the wastewater budget. So someone needs to make a motion or introduce a motion to approve quote 219 for $4,817.15.
Okay, make a motion to, so moved. Oh, sorry, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ooh, I like this.
And finally is the phone service, because this is something that you do remotely. In one instance, instead of using a laptop, the department head is using a phone when you're out in the field. And so that requires Verizon service. That is a one-time upgrade charge of $679.04 and a billing upgrade of monthly service of $54.61 moving forward. So the monthly cost gets, and the one-time cost gets billed to the water line.
Excellent, well done. So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have our events coordinator here. Want to talk us through this baby blessing?
Yeah, so. No, this is not for fun. The O'Connells would like to have a baby blessing on, as soon as I find. November 8th. Thank you.
From 10 to 3.
Yes, so I was wondering why it was so long, and they explained to me that it's not exactly as much a baby blessing as it is a baby shower. She's pregnant, due in June. Due in January with, January with, twins. And she wanted an opportunity for her family to get together, and celebrate and put blessings on their upcoming arrivals. And so she's going to have tables with food and flowers and.
In their driveway.
I think that's going on the bandstand. We always close the drive off.
Oh, the driveway being the
scoop.
The
The
scoop,
scoop.
yeah.
We always close that off for safety reasons. Because we don't want somebody in a car driving around that area while there's an event going on.
Yeah.
No.
November 8th, right?
Yeah, the boat's undocked.
That day, so they'll drop off and pick up. Okay. I have real concerns about this from just a use perspective. It's a long block of time to block off the bandstand in an area around for a private party in a public park. And I would be comfortable saying you could do that in either of the grassy areas to the side, but on a Saturday, giving over that much of a public, of a well-trafficked area of a public park is a concern to me. I don't know how others feel.
What alternatives could we suggest?
I would be fine with the grassy area to the north, to the south. To the north is not, it's a little muddy over there. It's not, the grass doesn't grow well under those trees, but there's a lovely grassy area between the dock and the boat club.
Dockside Park.
And Dockside Park is a different application.
Yeah.
That's a different application, that's a different.
It's also a much higher fee.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't mean they can't wander around that area, but they should be, if they're doing tables and things, I would rather have them centered in another part of the park. Yeah, 5 hours. I wondered if you were counting down on me talking.
No.
I mean, just now, on a side note, just keep in mind that same drive area and that same bandstand is gonna be cordoned off from 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 8:30 in the afternoon on the 25th of October.
For the Halloween parade.
And for Trevor Knight's 5-piece band at 2 o'clock.
But we didn't approve that.
No, you did approve it.
I don't remember that we approved it. That's just my memory failing. But they're not stationary. They're moving
No, they're
around.
moving. The band is stationary on the bandstand.
Right.
Right.
But
I just
different
want,
than, like, I don't know, to me, it seems, I don't want to set that precedent here, but it seems different to have tables and chairs and folks set up in the loop.
I don't think they're setting them up in the loop.
Why do they need the bandstand?
How about, you know what, this is not until November 8th. Tell you what, let's give you some time and ask this family to give us some more information.
Okay.
Also,
No problem.
around,
And let them know that we want to accommodate them, but we have to balance them with the hordes of people that we're gonna have that day on the dock. Yeah.
also says event end time 3, breakdown time 3, so they're that's their end time.
They're thinking they're gonna be
they're
done by 3 o'clock, yeah.
kind of out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will make a motion to table the request by the O'Connells.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Do your thing, Lillian.
I will give her a call tomorrow.
Okay. The next one is closing out another old week. That is, the agreement between the Village of Cold Spring and St. Mary's Church. In the Highlands, on the 9D, I'm sorry. Yes, the 9D side of St. Mary's, the trees planted there are on the border between St. Mary's and the village property. One of them, the church is taken down. One is in desperate need of coming down. It's dangerous. There are a couple of shared trees. So the tree board crafted this initially and John reviewed it as an agreement to, I gotta get it in front of me. Fairly divide the 4 shared tree locations, one of them being a cluster of trees. Do you have any questions for John on the topic?
I don't have any questions. I just want to make a comment. I'm in support of it.
Yeah.
I don't have any objection to it, but when they're doing the emergency safety, the non-emergency safety pruning and the routine maintenance.
Yep.
If they can be done in a coordinated and balanced way, because I sometimes see, when Central Hudson comes in and does some tree trimming, they do
Yeah,
it
we have no control over
on one side of the tree and it inevitably leads to the deterioration of the other part of the tree. So in the sense that we're working in a cooperative way with the church on this, if those needs can somehow be approached in a balanced way, so that.
So
Yeah,
we do have 3A
yeah.
calls for communication regarding. And I'm not worried about the church, but the thing you're describing is something that is almost impossible to control.
Yeah, not about Central Hudson, but to the extent that the village and the church are working together, that they want it not to sort of unbalance the tree in a way that makes
Understood.
lead to.
John, do you feel like we've addressed that issue sufficiently in this agreement?
Yeah, so there's the cluster of trees that you guys are sharing responsibility and as far as the maintenance and pruning, that has to be coordinated and agreed upon.
Yeah.
Between the 2 parties.
Got it. Right. Makes sense. That's fine. Thank you.
So what the motion that we are looking for is authorizing me to sign the agreement.
Make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement between the Village of Cold Spring and St. Mary's Church in the Highlands regarding tree on shared property boundary.
All in favor?
Aye.
Has the church seen this?
Yes.
Okay, so they're fine with it?
I mean, they haven't seen it since your modifications, but if they have any revisions, we can come back, right?
Well, I was just gonna say, if you wanna authorize the mayor to sign it, subject to a final
that's good, yeah.
review and approval, because maybe.
There may be
could be
minor things they
slight
wanna
changes
change, yeah.
Where we don't have to go back to the board, but there could be substantive changes where you have to go back to the board.
Okay.
So maybe if you wanna modify that motion to authorize you to sign it, subject to a final review and approval by the village attorney.
Okay,
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
God bless.
Okay, the next one is a really joyful one, and it's too bad the crowd is gone.
I'll be glad.
So, Michael, I hope that you will pay close attention and do a lovely job recognizing this family. One of the parcels that we need to acquire, related to the dam repairs has been in the Eustis family for generations. It's they call it a logging lot, a wood lot. It is simply that, a wooded lot. It is on as you're going out Lake Surprise Road, it's on the right side in between the road and the reservoir. It's a critical property to have to keep the project moving forward, and gain access. And we approached the Eustis family, the children, George, I believe it's Junior, potentially the third, and Harriet. And they have decided to donate it to the village, in honor of their grandfather, who said, my grandfather and my dad always let the village go back there to do what they needed to do. I will let you have it if you conserve it as wooded space, with the exception of, if you might need to do something small to support the dam, and that you install a plaque in honor of my grandfather. So it is a huge savings to taxpayers. We have discussed this in executive session, and it has been written in accordance with what we discussed in executive session, that we will cover the legal fees and engineering fees for the phase 1 review of, say the rest for me. The phase 1 review that's needed to,
Environmental due diligence, phase 1 report.
there we go, the environmental due diligence. So, and it's a big,
You
it's
wanna
a
make
big,
sure they're not donating a hazardous waste site,
exactly.
because then you're stuck with the liability.
Harriet has been wonderful to work with, and I'm just infinitely grateful. So what's before us tonight is the resolution to accept the real estate donation. It is a resolution that we need to read into the record, correct?
If you want to, sure.
I mean, I really,
Clarify.
quite long.
If I want to.
Clarify on 1, 2 different things.
I mean, you posted it on the website.
Yeah,
so
okay.
So can we,
If you wanna just do the, instead
The
of
roll
going
call
through all instead of going through all the whereas clauses, just go through the now therefore.
Okay. Now therefore, it is hereby resolved that the herein proposed acquisition is unlikely to have significant adverse environmental impacts, and therefore the preparation of an
Sorry. Secret. This is the one, right? So we do need to go.
All right,
through
let me
part-
just read it then, so it's, rather than trying to go through.
No,
it.
we need to like do it separately before you.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, we do need to do secret before we sign this
There's
agreement.
part 2 in the packet. There's the part 2, and I think some of the boxes were already checked.
Oh, there you go. Hang on, I gotta get down there.
So essentially, you just have to confirm that this donation is not going to create any significant environmental impacts or potential environmental impacts that need to be studied through an environmental impact statement. And as the mayor explained, really the main purpose of this donation is for preservation, water protection of your watershed, and as well as for access to the dam. So there's really no disturbance proposed. So our office prepared a part 1 of the environmental assessment, and that kind of goes through the facts. And again, there's really not much to this donation, but since the village is acquiring property, it is subject to secret. So then the part 2 is you go through a bunch of questions, and if you pull it out in the packet, I mean, given the fact that this is really just for preservation purposes, all the questions should be no or small impact on the environment. So you guys accepting this donation is not going to create any, really any environmental impacts at this point. So just need confirmation if you guys can just go through the part 2 questions.
Do you also read through them out loud?
I usually have the boards read through them. I know it's a long night. There's only 12 questions.
It's not, and we have 2 that have not been completed, so we need to review it. Are you breaking? Are we breaking you?
I think I.
You have it. Great, Matt, thank you so much. for tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
Very much appreciated, and
I do enjoy coming to these,
you answered questions.
after your
so
long
well.
vacation?
I was away.
Nothing.
What was I gonna say? Thank you.
Some of the email changes the word.
Yeah. And Marjorie has done that.
Okay.
The changes that I saw, John, were on page 1 of part 1. That parkland and rural non-agriculture
Forest.
needed to be, and forest needed to be checked. So they are now checked.
Yep.
And on number 14, it was also, I can't remember if it was forest or wetland, but now they're all checked. I didn't understand what early mid-successional means. But
I think it's like a transition from urban, suburban to
okay,
country.
got it. We call those the exurbs, I think. Okay. So, it's the right page. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? I believe the answer to that is no.
No, I don't think you have any CEAs.
Okay. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, bikeway, or walkway? No. This one is not marked. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? That should be no. Correct?
There's no structure.
Yeah, there's no structures going in. 7, will the proposed action impact existing public and private water supplies? It's not, the real estate transaction is not impacting the water supply.
But if anything,
That's what we're talking about.
Improve the water supply
Yeah.
because you're preserving the land.
So
No or small impact.
no or small impact. And public wastewater treatment, no. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, e.g. wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? Not the transaction. And again, this area is to be conserved. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. Having found all no's in part 2, we then move to part 3, is determining impact. And having answered no to all of the questions, we arrive at a negative declaration for environmental impact.
Correct. So you check the second, the lower box.
Yep.
This proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
Well, and I think I need to make a motion to identify the village as lead agency. We'll do that in the resolution. I've made that motion. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So, I am now, do we need to do a separate vote for this from the resolution, or because it's mentioned in the resolution?
Do a separate vote,
Okay.
verbally at least. And
Okay,
then
so I make the motion to identify the outcome of the EAF for the acquisition of the Eustis parcel as a negative declaration of environmental impact. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, now we move. Thank you, Ron. I'm glad you're here because the rest of us are fried. You may be fried too, though. Who knows?
We're just getting started.
Okay. So now we move to resolution number, you have a number, clerk? 40 of 2025. And we are skipping down to the now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the herein proposed acquisition is unlikely to have significant adverse environmental impacts, and therefore the preparation of an environmental impact statement is not required. And it is further thank you. Resolved that the village board of trustees hereby determines that the acceptance of the property donation is in the public interest of the residents of village. And it's further resolved that the village board of trustees hereby authorizes the mayor on behalf of the village to accept the donation of the property from the donor. And resolved that the village board of trustees hereby authorizes the mayor to execute any and all required agreements and documentations to effectuate the donation of the property, including but not limited to the real estate donation agreement, deed, and any necessary transfer documents, and to comply with all of the provisions of the real estate donation agreement, subject to the review and approval as to form and content by the attorney for the village. And it is further resolved that all prior actions taken by the mayor in connection with negotiation of the property donation are hereby ratified, confirmed, approved in all respects. I want to pause and say, also recognize Trustee Bosey, who's been an excellent partner in all of this. Resolved that the mayor is authorized to proceed with the survey and phase 1 to perform all acts and to execute all documents relating thereto. And it is further resolved the mayor is authorized to spend up to $15,000 to perform the phase 1 and survey. And it is further resolved that the mayor is authorized to reimburse the donor for its legal fees pursuant to the terms of the real estate donation agreement in an amount not to exceed $7,500. And it is further resolved that the village clerk is hereby directed to maintain a copy of this resolution in the official records of the village. And it is a roll call vote.
I have a question. Is trustee Armack returning to vote?
He had a family emergency and had to ditch, so it's just the three
All
of
right,
us.
then trustee Hall.
Aye.
Trustee Frymark is absent. Trustee Rosie is absent. Deputy Mayor Tweeps Phillips Woods.
Aye.
Mayor Kathleen Foley.
With deep gratitude and great joy, I say aye. Thank you, Harriet and George. Michael, you should consider interviewing Harriet if she's willing. Got good stories. Okay, the next is the authorization to appoint Deborah Muir as part-time crossing guard for the 25-26 school year. My recommendation, I don't have the email in front of me, but my recommendation was actually to approve her conditional upon successful completion of training with the officer in charge. After reviewing resumes and background checks for applicants to the position of crossing guard, I recommend the appointment of Debbie Muir at a rate of $20 an hour, conditioned upon successful completion of training. The officer in charge will oversee training for Ms. Muir and also work with Tom Herring, the existing crossing guard. She is available to start as of 10/15. And then importantly, for parity, I recommend that we also increase the pay for crossing guard Tom Herring to $20 an hour. That is the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome. Woo-hoo. All right, this is an added item to the agenda. Communications with C Streak are always a challenge. So they originally when they put in dates, they put in for Columbus Day. We did not approve Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. Said that if they were still interested in doing Friday, they could. I sent that communication to him. He replied on a different thread that was dated September 6th, so I missed the reply. So we prepared the contract and he reviewed and signed, didn't actually read the dates. A contract that did not include the 10th. He has in the meantime been advertising and selling tickets. I'm fine with it on Friday. And I discussed it with Matt. He doesn't have a problem with it. He just agreed that we were correct not to do Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
So, John, it's an addition to an existing contract.
Right, so it's just an amendment.
And we paper it as an amendment to him, or we?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
This weekend?
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Don't be 2 days from.
The reason that one of the chamber members called and said, the vote coming this weekend? And I said, no, and then got in contact, and that's, we figured out that he was selling tickets for a day we had not.
The last thing you want is an
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, that has implications, has implications for having police on duty, et cetera. So would someone like? Exactly, would someone like to make a motion to approve for Friday?
I make a motion to approve C Streak for Friday, October 10th.
And it is undocked. It is an undocked
Undocked.
approval.
Would be to amend the existing contract.
Yes.
I'm so moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those words are magic. Yeah. Okay, next one you're gonna love. So we've been through a number of staff changes and we are evolving as a board. I think it makes sense for us to, our meetings are posted as every Wednesday. I'd like us to revert to the second and fourth Wednesdays, gives the staff more time to recover, it gives us time to recover and properly put together the next meeting. It's been 4 years of constant need and things are stabilizing and we have a clerk who's holding us together. So I would make the motion to modify our schedule to the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month at 7 p.m. unless otherwise announced. Discussion. That word, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Yeah,
Who's got?
most municipal boards meet maybe twice a month.
Yeah.
The fact that you guys are meeting 4 times a month was just insane in my mind.
Thank you.
Well, we had to. And we did it. We did it, but now we don't need
That
to
has
be at
been
that breakneck
recorded.
pace.
To live ever.
It's exhausting, but we got through a lot.
Give that mic.
Yeah, he's nodding. Okay, and I will say that we are in that place because Marjorie is incredibly well organized and has capacity to think long-term and prioritize, and she has been just the best, the best addition ever. Who has approval of bills?
I do, I guess. I make a motion to approve bills batch 8075 in the amount of $81,018.06.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Acceptance of the clerk's minutes for the meeting dated 8/28/2024. Any discussion of it? You good? Okay. So I'll make a motion. Tweeps, you're seconding? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now we need to get back down into chapter 108.
Will this take a few minutes? I just need a quick phone.
Go ahead, go for it.
Unless it won't take be a few minutes. It might take 10 minutes or so.
We'll wait for you.
Okay.
Reasonable to have to use the loo? What did I do?
What do you think?
And a wash and paper. The red line. We printed the red line.
Okay.
Oh. This isn't that source.
This is still open.
Don't make any faces.
I'm not making any faces.
Okay, just making sure. I'm starving. Oh my God, it's so hot in here. Here's the, turn the AC up.
I was wondering if you turned it off.
No, I
I haven't heard it kick in. That's not a good sign. She'll might have to do her special reset. Okay. So 108 is easy. There's nothing to change. The modifications the two modifications were EV chargers, covering EV charger cords, which we should have fewer of now that we installed 4 more chargers, and language related to obstructions in the streets. So, that one we can move to resolution on.
Is there
Resolution 41, 2025.
You got it?
You gotta close the public.
Oh, I would like to make a motion. Let's make sure there's no one else that's arrived. Nope. Having heard all who wish to be heard, I make a motion to close public hearing. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, John.
Who's second?
Here it is, got it. We haven't yet. Here it is, I've got it.
The motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, me. I have it here. If you wanna pick it.
Okay. You said 41, resolution number 41?
Yes, 2020.
Okay, resolution number 41, 2025, adopting local law 7 of 2025, amendments to chapter 108, streets and sidewalks. Following resolution was offered by myself for the adoption and seconded by
Me. Oh, Andrew.
Trustee.
trustee Andrew Hall, whereas a resolution was duly adopted by the village board of the Village of Cold Spring on September 24th, 2025, scheduling a public hearing to be held by said governing body on October 8th, 2025, at 7 p.m. at Village of Cold Spring Village Hall to hear all interested persons on proposed local law amending Chapter 108 of the Village Code concerning encroachments into the streets and sidewalks. And whereas notice of said public hearing was duly advertised in the official newspaper of the said village according to law, and whereas Said public hearing was held on October 8th, 2025 at the Village Hall, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to said proposed local law. And whereas the village attorney has advised that no action is required by the Cold Spring Board of Trustees under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SECRA), because SECRA does not apply to the adoption of this type of local law. And whereas the Village Board of Cold Spring, after due deliberation, finds it in the best interest of the said village to adopt said local law. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Village Board finds one, that the adoption of the proposed local law is in the best interest of the residents of the village, and hereby adopts said local law number 7 of 2025, entitled A Local Law to Amend Chapter 108 of the Village Code, entitled Street and Sidewalks. And 2, those 3, but 2, hereby directs that the village clerk enters said local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the local law book of the Village of Cold Spring, and give due notice of the adoption of said local law to Secretary of the State of New York. Front page. On the roll call vote. Wait, there's gotta be more to this. That's it?
I think it was just.
That's it?
108 is just one.
Yeah.
On a roll call vote.
Trustee Laura Bosse is absent. Trustee Aaron Primer is absent. Trustee Andrew Hall.
Aye.
Trustee Tweed Stokes Woods.
Aye.
Mayor Foley.
Aye. Yeah, I
The
have it.
resolution officially approved by a vote of 3002.
Thank you. Now, 126. This is not going to be as difficult as it seems, because I have itemized what changes are in what section. Do you have the resolution in front of you? So it is the exception. We are withdrawing the recommendation for a change in the 2643 and 12635.
So there's the actual local laws after the resolution. So I would mark up the local law with the changes. Explain them out loud so that way everybody
So the record,
understands them. Trustees. And then that way the clerk can then make the change tomorrow if it's adopted. Because we want to make sure we have the correct version that gets sent over to the Secretary of State.
Okay. So the first change is in section 12643 table. It is table. I'll get there. It is schedule 14 resident permit parking. We are striking the proposed amendment related to High Street.
Sorry, Mayor, I need you to hold on to this.
Yeah, no problem. I can mark it on the red line too.
So is that gonna revert back to the?
There is no change. No change to High Street parking, residential parking requirements.
Okay, I'm sorry, section or chapter 126, section 43.
Yep, schedule 14, resident permit parking. It's the very last page of the law. We are striking, removing the proposed change to High Street.
Removing High Street west from 88 feet from Main Street to Northern Avenue in full.
So
Right,
what
so the
what
language
we're
is
reverting to, go ahead.
revert back to what currently exists.
So the High Street language, the two references to High Street, we're reverting to those. So we will add back in to the local law or High Street on the east side including in residential parking, the east side of High Street from 54 feet from Main Street to 15 feet south of Haldane and from Haldane Street to Northern Avenue. That will remain in the modified 126. Covered it?
Yep.
Okay,
One.
now 126.35. Version doesn't have page numbers bottom, so I'm
Schedule 8, no parking anytime.
Yep. In the local laws, the header word on. Sorry, this is just gonna be painful, there's no way around it. 126. 30. The way to check your organ is just infuriating. 126. Here it is. No parking anytime. There will be no change to parking on Market Street between New Street and Main Street. And therefore, the language will remain in the new local law stating that what's the name of the street? Lund. Lund Terrace. No, this is the red line, so it's not here. That Lund Terrace, I don't have the old language.
Is there any printed?
It's 34, 35. I'm missing that section in the red line.
Andrew, you could call it up online, the old sections.
Well, I have the
Or it should
section,
be in
just the language.
Is the red line, the existing language is in
The
there?
red line.
So the former language should be in the red line.
It should be, if it's not. Andrew, can you pull it up on your phone from the village website, the current chapter 126? No parking at any time. Schedule 8. Alphabetical. Sorry, not no parking at any time. It's no park, maybe I'm on the wrong schedule.
Where should I go? Forms and.
It's not no parking at any time. It was limited time parking where the change was. So maybe I'm looking at the wrong table. Sorry, just be patient.
What am I looking for again?
Hopefully we'll tell you this section in a minute.
It's not no parking at any time. It is no parking, restricted hours. Limited time parking. Here it is. It is section 126.39. Not that I have typed 35, it's 39. And it is on the red line, it's page 126.43. We had struck. Market.
Locate us where you are.
I'm on page 1 of the red line, 126.43, to pull the original language. We will restore to the local law. Market Street. Under Schedule 7, limited time parking, Market Street on the east side, 2 consecutive hours, 8 AM to 5 PM, 7 Market Street to Main Street.
And we will strike the amendment.
Strike,
Market Street
yes.
West, 2 consecutive hours, 8 AM to
Strike that
5
portion.
PM, New Street to Main Street.
Yeah. Okay, now we have to go slowly on the next one because it got confusing me as the conversation went on. The other, I just want to read through Schedule 8 again to make sure, after all that discussion, that what we intend is what's reflected in the table. So I'm looking at Northern Avenue. Very simple on the north side, which is the apartment side. No parking the entire length. Stays as is. Northern Avenue on the north side. Well, that's contradictory. This is not ours. This is the piece we inherited, John. It currently has Northern Avenue on the north side entire length and Northern Avenue between Fair Street and 110 feet of each Church Street. Yeah. The bottom end. So just give me a second to think. If it's entire length, which is law passed in 2021, and then also
Where do you see that, Kathleen?
on page 12638.
Right, I see North Street, north side. of
Oh,
Harlem.
that's why I'm reading the wrong street. Thank you. Thank you. It is 20 minutes of 10. Thank you, Lillian.
You're welcome.
I will take help from wherever I can get it tonight. So now, Northern Avenue. North side, so the apartment side, between Fair Street and 110 feet of Church Street. That is correct. So I'm gonna do this for myself. I'm gonna draw 9D, and I'm gonna draw a garden. Is that right? High Garden Church?
Garden Church High.
Garden. Church. High. So there is a visual illustration for the clerk.
Do you want a map?
We have a map here in front of us, but I'm drawing it, so there's no shadow of a doubt what we mean. So Northern Avenue on the north side, which is this side, here's the apartments. Between Fair Street. Right here. Yep. And Church, right here. There's no parking. Northern Avenue, north side from Morris Ave, West Street. For 25 feet. That's right here on the corner.
West Street.
Yes. Okay, Kathleen, Kathleen, you wanna make this easy? You're going Northern Avenue, north side, entire length. That's 9D to Fair Street.
Yeah, it's just not marked up. It's not marked up that way to his point. It's marked up incorrectly. The intention, what I think our intention is no parking on the length of Northern Avenue on the north side. And then on the south side from 9D
The High Street.
to High Street. And there is a little patch here. According to the Northern Avenue between Morris and Church. It should be high. I don't know where that came from. All right. So right here, no parking. North Morris Ave, 90 West. We don't need that anymore. This is now duplicative.
You're striking Northern Avenue, north from Morris Avenue,
To
Route
90.
90 west for 25 feet.
Right, because it's included in the entire length. North Street. This just needs to say entire length. This needs to be modified to say entire length. That's what we're saying,
I
right?
mean, I think so.
That's what I think it has to say.
And then. So I have John, what I hear is a visual of what is intended. But I am so strung out and exhausted right now, I can't tell if the language says that. That's what's intended.
Okay, do you want to table the vote?
That's, my question to you is the visual enough, or do we want to pull that part?
May I see it?
Yeah.
See if I can interpret it.
We're just wanting to, I'm wanting to really have this done.
Let's say this map is not helping. Actual map.
Have another try.
That would be.
Maybe table it, get a map to Matt, have him confirm it.
So can we approve it conditionally upon confirmation of language? We know, we all three of us understand what we intend. In public session, we got feedback that had made us realize, oh yeah, the language isn't as clear as it should be. Our intent remains the same, but the language needs to be clarified. I mean, you're the attorney, we'll do what you tell us.
Language solidified.
Yeah. Okay.
We might technically have to amend it again in case there is a little, obviously little typos are fine, but if there's
No,
wrong
that makes
streets
sense.
or something like that, it could require you to go through this whole process.
That totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And you are the voice of reason at this late
So
hour.
if we table it and correct the language after everyone's reviewed it, we can just vote on it.
Yeah.
Normal, it doesn't have to
Just-
be like.
Have the local law amended. Get it on every, get it to all board members before the meeting and the public hearing's already been closed. You talked about these changes during the public hearing, so that's fine. So you don't have to reopen the public hearing or anything like that.
Okay,
So you can just certainly vote on it at the next meeting.
okay. So table the whole thing until we sort out.
Yes, yes.
All right, that makes sense. Because I don't want, we don't want to do it wrongly.
And I would have Matt double check.
That it's right, yeah.
That's what he wants.
You wanna do it in the next meeting? It's okay to wait that long, or do you wanna
Well, I think that Bugsy, so one of the questions, so that Bugsy can proceed with putting in the stop signs at Northern, probably can't do that until.
Can't do that unless you
this
know
is
where
passed.
it's going.
Are you adding, that's one of the other schedules, is adding
Right,
stuff?
that's one of the ones that's not changed, not being modified from based on tonight's conversation. That is unchanged. 3 stop signs at Lunn and Market.
Could we meet, have a separate meeting?
I'll find about that.
Okay.
If it's necessary to have as you said, a
If we
separate
need to have a
meeting,
second to vote.
I'm willing to do that.
Okay, great.
I'm flexible.
So Mike, for your clarity, what we are doing right now is confirming that we have the language right by tabling this motion. And the board will reconvene with fully vetted language confirmed by the OIC to make sure we have it right. And we will convene again to vote. So you have track of the changes. If you need to talk to me tomorrow, you can. So I make a motion to table chapter 126 in order to properly amend the section related to Northern Avenue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was really hard. So- And I think we're all just too tired to do it tonight.
We have a motion.
Is that the next thing on the agenda?
It is.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
There we go. I'm gonna stop the recording. Good night. Whoever's left.
I will. Just us.
21:47.
No.
Well done, everyone.